Um, Great to have everyone joining us from all across the province and I think further afield as well. So it's always good when we see those signups to see lots of Alberta places, but I know we've had lots of people from the States and even further away than that joining us for this. To start, I'd like to, before we introduce the topic, I'd like to first acknowledge and respect that we're on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places and traveling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the land of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. So thank you very much for everyone joining us and for Megan and Ryan from 910 Marketing for continuing our series, looking at various digital marketing tools, strategies, tactics. And today we are digging deep into search engine optimization, looking to don't get left out of Google search. So I'm not going to do too much of an introduction today, apart from the little bit of housekeeping I will do, and say that use the chat there to kind of connect and to discuss what's being discussed. But if you have a question that you'd like the team, if you'd like Ryan and Megan to address, put it in the Q&A there. And that's just going to be a bit more closely monitored and definitely something that we'll hopefully pick up on through the webinar today. So we're just at 11 o'clock now, and we'll be done by 12, but feel free to ask those questions and there'll be lots of opportunity through the session for that. So over to Megan and Ryan.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I'll let Ryan do a quick introduction of 910 here. Who we are. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt, and the Business Link team. Lots of people in the background working with us on these webinars. So again, my name is Ryan. I am the CEO of 910 and one of the owners, and we are a fierce small team out of Grand Prairie, Alberta. That's where our offices are physically hosted, although we do have remote team members, Megan included. She's living the dream, working off grid, using Starlink. And we are an agency that focuses quite significantly on all things digital marketing. So when we think about our mission, so, what is it that we're trying to do as an agency? You can read it on screen, but in essence is we're trying to help small, medium businesses in Alberta become more self-sufficient and more proficient with their digital branded marketing. So within our philosophy, effectively, there are two main items, foundational items that need to be in place. And so we help them to build those. And then we provide training so that they can activate or manage or execute on that brand foundation. So the brand and the website are pretty central. So this is a tile representing the primary services of our agency. And you can see in the left, it's starting with the brand. We talk a lot about brand as being a foundation. On the far right, you can see that we kind of graduate to the training where we say, now that everything's in place, let us teach you how to manage this. And down in the bottom, you see websites and SEO, and those can very closely be tied together. And so today's discussion is about SEO, search engine optimization. And it is the one discipline that comes with a lot of jargon, a lot of technicalities. And although we do like to get technical and we don't try to dumb it down for our clients and for our team members internally, but we do use a lot of analogies and we try to bring forward the most important things that are salient and that you can remember. So SEO is really just a game of being discovered on search engines. So Google, Bing, Yahoo, but Google's still the primary workhorse there. And we're ultimately trying to have you discovered on those search engines when people are searching across a wide array of search terms, keywords related to your business for a specific geographic region against a specific set of competitors. So we're going to kind of go through that. And so Megan, who leads our training academy, is a certified digital marketing professional. The first graduate out of our training program. She received her designation a couple of years ago. And so she is an expert in all things SEO and everything else under the digital marketing umbrella. So with that, Megan, have fun with this. And one last thing, I've already seen that people are putting notes and comments in the chat. We love that. I'll participate there as well. But if you have a specific question throughout that you would like for us to answer, do put that in the Q&A. It's just a little bit easier for us to track. But if you just have general comments, the webinar chat, which I see people are already using, is perfect. All right, with that, over to you, Megan.
Thanks, Ryan. Yes, SEO can be quite technical. And I know when I first started in digital marketing, 4 or 5 years ago, it was really overwhelming for me because I didn't understand it. And now as I've developed my own skill set, being able to see kind of the network and the patterns of how it all fits together, it's become actually one of the more interesting topics to me. So with that, today we're going to be talking about what SEO is and some of the fundamental tools that you need in order to optimize your own content online. So as Ryan mentioned, fundamentally SEO is where you show up in search engines. So primarily we're going to be talking about Google because that is the most used search engine. It is the most used website on the planet. So most people are going directly to Google to be searching things. So that is what we're going to be talking about a lot, but these rules apply to other search engines as well. I'm seeing a lot of brand new SEO comments, so I'm excited about this to help demystify a little bit of that and break it down so it's not quite as technical and overwhelming. So really, search engine optimization, let's back up a second. The search engine results page. So this is when you go onto Google, you search something, and you get that list of things that pop up. That is the search engine results page, or the SERP. That's something that you'll see. That's one of the technical words that you'll see when you're learning some of this stuff. It's split up into a few different things, a few different areas. The first one is Google My Business. This is the directory, the in-house directory that you will see. And this is most common to come up when you use a localized search term. So if you're using a search term specific to Edmonton or Grand Prairie, if you are using that local word, then you're more likely going to have this listing pop up. And then underneath of that listing is going to be your organic search results. So the ones that are just most best fit for the search terms that are being used. The next one that I want to talk about is your sponsored. So these are your Google ads, your paid advertising. Often it's called PPC or pay per click advertising. They're usually kind of conflated one and the same. But if you notice this search term here where I included the local term, right? The location-based keyword, we have the listing and then we go right into the organic search results versus if I add in different keywords, no location, then I get all of my sponsored listings first, right? So there's a little bit variability depending on what you're going for. And you can see that these particular ads have used learn and probably baking as both fundamental keywords in their advertising. So those are the sponsored. When you look at the search engine results page, you're going to see a lot of different listings depending on your personal traffic and how you have interacted with different businesses over the years. If you consistently go to one website, that one will show up more frequently than something else, right? So it really depends on you and your own history, but it also depends on geographic location, where you are, and specifically the keywords, the search terms that you're using as well. So when it comes to you as a marketer, understanding that, learning what kind of words you need to use in order to show up for people is really important. And that's something that we'll talk about as well. So quickly, before we get too far into it, I wanted to make a distinction between on-site and off-site SEO. So there's a couple different sides to SEO, and on-site are all the things that happen on your actual website, right? That I feel like that's fairly self-explanatory. A lot of that is very, very technical and things that probably should be left up to your web developers. Things like making sure that your site is securely hosted and is on a modernized, up-to-date content management platform, right? Like WordPress, for example, and using modern tools, making sure that all of the information is accurate and up-to-date, using your SEO optimized page titles and things like that. That can be difficult for somebody to manage. So that's something that can be left up to an agency. There are things that you yourself can manage though as well, like understanding your keywords and building up links on your blog posts and giving accurate meta descriptions with keywords and local keywords in there as well. So on-site is everything that happens on the site itself. And then off-site are things that happen elsewhere, right? So your third-party directory listings like Google My Business or Yelp, Yahoo, those are all have third-party directories as well. I see a question that says, what are meta descriptions? And I will talk about that. So that is a question that will get answered in a little bit as well, but we'll talk about why meta descriptions are so important. But just briefly, this is a meta description. So it shows up just right underneath of the link when you're looking on a search engine results page. Social media has an impact on your SEO. It's not a direct link, but there is positive social signals that get sent back and forth between those websites. So when you have high traffic coming from your social media page to your website, there is positive signals that are sent, and that increases your SEO. Backlinks. Backlinks are things that, especially high quality backlinks, where a reputable source is linking back to your website. And this is kind of a I'll scratch my back, you scratch I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine type of interaction, where if we link to Business Link, for example, they will link to us. We are both reputable sources in the business and marketing industry. And so we've created a good, strong backlink there, and that helps with both of our SEOs. And then the last thing here is brand mentions. Those are really important for brand recognition and gives you a lot more authority and value. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add two clarifying comments. One thing I like to make explicitly clear for our clients is to say out loud and to recognize that, wait a minute, there's things that can happen off of my website that will directly impact my website's discoverability on search engines. And one of the things I like to do is, once we get into this and we think about all of the different hundreds of things you can do to move the needle for SEO, simplified and say, in a world where your website and your competitors' websites are identical in all of the things that they're doing, save for this one difference. And you can say, imagine Google looking down in the sky, and your website is about the same as your competitor website, except for you have no links coming to it from the outside world. Whereas your competitor website is linked to from the Better Business Bureau, from Business Link, from Chamber of Commerce, from their LinkedIn page, from et cetera, et cetera. So all these little backlinks really help. So it's really important to just kind of flag in your mind that there's lots of things that can happen outside of your website that really happen, help to pull you up. And just a little bit more information about the meta descriptions, where Megan showed that meta description data coming forward on the search results page. We'll talk more about that, but I just want to flag, when it comes to your website, the on-site stuff, just flag in your mind that there's tons of stuff that the humans will see, and there's a whole range of stuff that we do, which is really invisible to humans and just read by search engines. So this is where it kind of blends into the technical that we were talking about at the beginning. Back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and just on the meta descriptions and alt text as well, both of those are kind of things that both humans and the robots see. And so we have to optimize them for both, right? Using our keywords, but also making sure that it's readable for people as well. All right. So all of these things are great and dandy, but how do they all come together? And like I was saying at the beginning, it wasn't really until I started seeing the patterns and how it all fit into one that it really started clicking and making sense. So the way that Google weights these things is by a framework called EAT. And it looks at a few different things to combine to basically trust, right? So one is experience. This is two things. One, user experience. So that's the very technical side, the load, speed, all of that. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But the other side of it is your experience as the content creator. Google puts a lot, well, search engines in general put a lot of weight into your lived experience and the firsthand knowledge that you have. There's a difference between your book learning and your hands-on practical experience, because book learning can teach you all of the things, but it's not really until you get hands-on and start practicing that it makes it a little bit more difficult to, or it makes it makes a little bit more sense, right, when you start putting it all together. So the experience is twofold. One, the user experience, their experience going through your website, and then the second is your own personal experience with the topic. The next is expertise. So this is very similar to your own experience, but it's about your level of learning and expertise on a topic. So for example, if we're looking at the health industry, a blogger that has a lot of experience in health supplements, selling prenatal vitamins, versus a website run by a prenatal health expert like an OBGYN, their expertise is given more weight because they have more education, more experience, more expertise, right? So that's where the difference is there. And then authority. Authority is how trusted you are in the industry, right? So how common is your website to be cited by other people? That's where our backlinks come in. How often is your website visited by other people? That's all part of the authority, and right, how readily people trust you as a source of information. And that all combines together to the trustworthiness of your site and whether or not your site is going to be beneficial for consumers, right? Google, like any other platform, Yahoo, Bing, whatever your search engine is, they're all businesses. They operate by people, using their platforms, but also by being able to serve their customers, right? The people that are searching for different websites. So they want to provide the best information possible. And so this all comes together into the trustworthiness and how they rate your pages. The second part of how everything comes together is with this framework called Your Money, Your Life. And basically this is kind of a harm reduction almost framework where it puts an importance, it weights the importance or the impact of the information on a page. So this is not going to necessarily directly impact your SEO, but it has implications. So when we're looking at what type of information is really important, it's whether or not it's going to be harmful to have it or not, right? So thinking about the implications of having evacuation routes in the event of natural disasters, so like fire, wildfires, natural disasters like that, it's really important to have the evacuation route. So that is given a higher priority in YMYL than the 10 best TikTok trends of 2024, right? Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, can you just go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
I just wanted to, again, I like to always try to just simplify things. And I do this for myself all the time and say, okay, in a scenario where there's two websites, yours and your competitors, and all things being equal, your websites are both well built, you have the same level of content, they're kind of same, except for, and then you introduce one sort of, one element. And what we're trying to do is isolate, what is it about this element that is improving your search? And it's really, what would happen if I put user reviews and references on my website of the work we do? It both shows our experience, and reviews and testimonials significantly are strong signals for trust. When we are posting the type of stuff we're doing right now, where we're educating about our services, we're partnering with BusinessLink. BusinessLink is linking to us. That is pulling up our authority, but the information that we're sharing on our website, Google is seeing that we have a constant stream of material that's showing our expertise. And so when we're identifying the wide array of things you can do, there's no silver bullet. There's no one single thing you can do to be at the top of search, but there's lots of little things that you can do. And on the whole, they're all really dialing in to this screen here. We're trying to showcase to Google that your website is trustworthy and relevant to the searches that people are looking for. It's just, it's like Google's trying to determine which website should I send this human to that will be the most helpful given what we know they're looking for from their search results. So back to you, Megan.
Thank you. Great question in the chat there. So that really answered your question, Nikki, about if Google reviews affect your trustworthiness. To an extent, yes, because it showcases the interaction that you have with your clients there. But also, how does expertise get measured? A question from John. Is it through keywords or descriptions of the author? Yes, a lot of it is how you demonstrate your expertise on your website. So listing things like your certifications, linking back to well-known authority pages in your industry, and yes, using your keywords. So in like a blog post saying, I learned about XYZ, so you don't have to, kind of a thing, right? So now I have the authority, the expertise, and it's not why you should learn about XYZ. So there's a slight difference there, and those subtleties definitely do make a difference over time.
Yeah, and actually just one little extra bit on that. There's something called domain authority. And so when BusinessLink links to 910, that BusinessLink would have higher domain authority than a new organization that just launched their website linking to us. So the quality of the people, of the websites and the external sources that are linking to you make a big difference. And where we mentioned Chamber of Commerce, for example, Chamber of Commerce has high domain authority. It's a really strong link, has lots of SEO juice, let's call it. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with the YMYL, Your Money, Your Life, the considerations here are impact on health, physical safety, financial stability, and happiness. So kind of all areas of your life and how important that information is and how it will impact the consumer at the end of the day. So again, the idea here is harm reduction. So placing or reducing the impact that scams and dangerous information have on the end user. So this is something to consider as well. Generally speaking, this has a less impact for small and medium businesses typically, but it is definitely something to be considerate of and how you would maybe fall within this. All right, so when it comes to Google My Business, we talked about that directory listing, right? That's one of the first things that pops up on the Google results page. So it's generally speaking, one of the easiest ways to stay at the top of that search engine results page, right? So when we're looking at Google My Business, you want to claim your business if you haven't done that already. So how you can do that is type your business name into Google and see if you need to own this business. So a little button will pop up underneath of the contact information that says own this business. You click on that, it will take you through the steps in order to claim it. If you already have done that and you own your profile and you can go in there and edit it, making sure you're staying up to date, right? Updating your hours, making sure your contact information is correct. If you move, changing your address, and then posting regular updates as well can help. People, and this is where we get into the discussion of optimizing things for people versus for search engines. People generally aren't going to necessarily see the updates that you post through your Google My Business, but it very much is seen by the search engines themselves. And so it's really beneficial to be able to stay active because again, it's a business. It wants you to use its services. By staying active and filling everything out that you need to fill out, it will benefit you exponentially. So making sure that everything is filled out comprehensively, you go through every step in every form field and making sure that you're providing comprehensive information is really, really beneficial. This is one of the easiest ways to zoom to the top without necessarily having to build a lot of backlinks and a lot of those extra things that happen offsite. All right. The other thing to be very considerate of is using your service keywords. So what you actually offer in your website, there's a lot of flexibility with your service listing in Google My Business that you can add in a lot of extra stuff. And then the second thing is making sure you're including a lot of those location keywords as well. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to stress the importance of filling out your Google profile completely. This would be similar to if your business has a video and you upload it to YouTube. I see quite often, for example, a company would upload a promotional video and they would not take the time to add categories and tags and a description. And so then that video is inherently less discoverable and doing less work from an SEO perspective. And they took the time to invest in the video and they took the time to upload it, but they just got a little bit lazy on the forms. So if you claim your Google My Business profile, you'll go in there, you'll see there's lots of fields and there's lots of information that's asking. It's asking about your hours of operation and your parking and what does your company do. And so you should have a thorough list of your products and services, and it should be well thought out and it should be consistent to what it says on your website. And you should have the same address and the same phone number. So a little bit of attention to detail when you're filling out your Google My Business profile goes a long way. And then it's the same thing we'll talk about once you're posting a blog article on your website. Attention to detail, just take the time to fill it out properly and you'll significantly increase your results by virtue of following some best practices, which it's pretty easy to get a little bit lazy or lackadaisical on. And so we just stress the importance of that.
Yeah, a really great question in the chat there. What if we don't have a physical location? Like you're running a business out of your house and you don't want your home address on the internet? That's definitely valid. From what I understand, you can put in a PO box. So if you have a PO box registered for your business, that is probably the best way to go about that. If you don't want your home address, there are definitely some hurdles if you don't have a physical location to go through, but you can get around that. And I think when you're setting up your profile, there is a button that says don't have a physical address, and then it will just, Google will have to verify you through a different way, but you can get around that.
Yeah, you can also, there's still limitations and challenges with this. You can get a virtual PO box or a virtual address through like UPS, but then what it does is it shows your PIN at that location. And so, yeah, for businesses that don't have a physical address, the Google My Business profile, like the map directory listing, is less powerful, less useful than businesses with a physical location. Local SEO, as they call it, really prioritizes around helping people find businesses in their directory, which can be geolocated on a map.
Yeah, absolutely. A question from Daniela, where do you write blogs in Google My Business? You wouldn't write an actual blog post in Google My Business. You would write that on your website and then share that to Google My Business through create an update. So when you're on your profile, you'll be able to see there's a little button on this on the left-hand side that says create an update, and then you would link to your blog post there, but you don't actually write the blog post in Google My Business. All right, so we've talked a lot about keywords and search terms. What does that actually mean? How do we figure that out? So there's a few different conversations that happen around keywords and search terms. Some very technical, technical terminology, but very commonly how it's taught is through a tiered system. You have primary, secondary, and tertiary keywords. So your primary keywords, you're generally going to have 1 to 2 per service area, where you have like the most important thing that you want to come across in that service. This is going to be something that people are going to be searching for. So if you have like technical services, you're going to want to use what people know it as, not necessarily what the actual technical word is, because again, this is for your audience. This is what they know. Secondary are going to be very important keywords, but ones that you're going to include more often in your subheadings on your website, in your text blocks and things like that. And of course, incorporating these into your alt text and into your meta descriptions. And then tertiary are more like the long form keywords that aren't necessarily quite as important, but still valuable to add in context. And you're going to use these more often, again, in some of those smaller areas like your body context or your body text. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just give some practical examples here. As you go from primary to secondary, or secondary to tertiary, like as you go down the pyramid, obviously it's wider, there will be more keywords. So an example would be primary. Grand Prairie photographer. Secondary, Grand Prairie wedding photographer. Tertiary, Grand Prairie outdoor wedding photographer. I'm looking for a photographer that specializes in weddings and specifically outdoor black and white. So usually when someone gets down to the tertiary, they're starting to use keywords that are actually getting more focused. This is sometimes called long tail, and they just mean like the string of keywords along, one by one by one, they make a long string of keywords. They call that long tail search. And it tends to be that there's less volume, there's less people searching for those long detailed ones, but those are people that know exactly what they're looking for. I'm looking for a Grand Prairie wedding photographer, outdoor, vintage style, something like that. And to the extent that someone has a blog article that captures many of those keywords, even referencing vintage, for example, then they've been able to capture that person's search by virtue of paying attention to the primary, secondary, and tertiary keywords.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keywords are a really big part of how you set up your marketing in general, right? And I'm pulling up this slide here because it shows really the entirety of what we call brand strategy, brand with a capital B. And it shows kind of all of the different parts of what goes into your brand. And your keywords impact your positioning, right? So understanding your audiences and what they are searching for, how you differentiate yourself from your competitors, right? Those are huge here. But then also in communication, right? How you present yourself to your audiences and the language that you use is very, very imperative with your keywords. It also has a huge impact on how you use tools like ChatGPT, right? If you understand your audience and the language you need in order to talk to them, you are able to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, write me a blog post on XYZ topic. These are the keywords that I want to use, and this is the audience that I'm trying to reach. right there, you now have a much better chance at getting something that's more usable from ChatGPT and using some of those other tools than if you were to just say, write me a blog post on XYZ topic. So it's really valuable to understand where these all fit together in your brand as a whole. Ryan, did you want to add anything else to how your keyword?
Thank you. So when we're doing brand strategy, this kind of slide is really a framework that we follow to pull out, facilitate all this information that we're trying to pull from our clients about them, about their company, about their clients, about their services, about their keywords, why they're keywords. Keywords, the words that people use, are really what they signal to Google. Hey, Google, please help me. I'm looking for X, Y, Z. And the string of keywords they use is really important. And so a lot of times, what happens is a business might have the terminology that the industry calls it, which may very well be different than what their clients call it. So you have to be really cognizant about what are the wide array of terms that people might be searching for. Someone might search for website developers, Grand Prairie, or website designers, or they might say WordPress websites or Shopify or e-commerce or website builders. There's a whole wide array. And just by, I'd love to kind of hear what people would say. If you were looking for a financial planner for like your financial planning, would you Google financial planner Grand Prairie or retirement planning or estate planning? They're kind of all about the same. And so just notice that there's the words that you're more inclined to use, but they're going to differ from someone else. So as the business owner, you really have to understand the slate of keywords that are operable across all of your products and services. And you really have to be mindful when there's different instances of those keywords, because you have to capture them. Because if someone's searching for retirement planning, and everyone's using the word retirement planning, and your website is all about using the language of estate planning, you have a bit of a miss there from a keyword matching perspective. So that's back to you, Megan. That's what I wanted to share.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. We had a great question there in the Q&A, but the question was, do we teach on ChatGPT? And the answer is yes. We do teach quite a bit about AI and ChatGPT. So if you're able to, definitely stay till the end of today's presentation, because we'll talk quite a bit more about that and be able to give you a more comprehensive overview of what that will look like. All right, so let's get into some of the on-site things that will really benefit you as the user. These are things that typically should be done right at the get-go when your website is being built, but need to be maintained as the user yourself as you're going through and writing blogs and updating your website. So HTML tags are something that assigns a value to the text that you're writing, right? So basically, when you're going through and you're seeing in your editor, there's HTML tag and it says H1, that means it's heading 1. It is the highest priority, right? So it has the most important information, right? This is where you put your primary keywords. You have H1 all the way through H6. Usually H1 and H2 are given the highest priority. Those are going to be your primary headings. And typically every page should have one H1 heading on it that includes one of those primary keywords. And then going through your subheadings, those are given subsequent lesser priority, but more priority than the paragraph text, the HTML tag paragraph. But this is what that is. And it's something to watch out for, because that's how you decide how to formulate those headings is based on that importance, right? And what keywords to incorporate into those headings. If we get into, yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I just wanted to talk a little bit more about where headings come from and a good analogy or comparison you want to think about. Physical newspapers. So just imagine you're grabbing a coffee at the gas station, and maybe it's a gas station that has, the old school. To the left, there's a rack of all of the newspapers from Calgary and Edmonton and Grand Prairie when they used to have a paper, all this sort of stuff. So you can look down and you can, from a distance, you can see the newspaper, and you might see it's summer solstice weekend. You might see the leading article is something about record temperatures for summer solstice weekend ahead. And so I know that that's an article about summer solstice and it's about the weather, etc. And I don't have to read the article to know that that's what the article is about. And it's because the heading, the H1, the largest text, made it very easy for me to glance through. If I were to open up that paper, you would see that that story then has subheadings, and I could just glance through and I could see that it's record temperature. And then I could also see heading 2 is about record ticket sales, and then heading 3 is about security concerns. And I didn't read the article, but I was very quickly able to understand the gist of what this newspaper article was about. So if you just say that Google has a similar characteristic, that when it's looking at millions of websites very quickly, it better understands those websites if they use these H1, H2, H3, so that Google can quickly glance through it. So headings are both for humans to glance through content very quickly and understand the context of what that post or page is about. And then the choice of words in the heading 1, heading 2, heading 3 are really important. They should be descriptive and they should be a summary of what it is. So summer solstice weekend, record temperatures, ticket sales are up, security concerns, all of those are captured by heading 1, 2, and 3. So I know that that's the gist about that article. And if you just take that kind of mindset of physical newspapers use these headings, well, it turns out websites do as well, and it's to make it easier for Google.
Yeah. And another thing that you'll kind of notice as well when we're talking about this easily scannable content, and that's part of the user experience as well. But in a world of mobile devices where we are looking at everything on these tiny little screens, the way that our eyes adjust to that content on screen is really important to be able to have people actually get invested. So if we're looking at like a blog post, for example, and we have the title and then we have the subheadings, we also need to make sure that the content blocks, so the paragraph text that we're sharing, are really short pieces so that there's space in between, right? Because if, again, we're looking at this teeny tiny little screen, there's not a lot of space there to be able to read through. So when we're looking at the easily scannable content, we want to make sure there's breaks in that, and using visually differentiated pieces like our headings, right, our H1 through H6 headings, that gives us some visual differentiation as well that makes it a little bit easier for the end user to be able to read. All right, meta descriptions. So conversations about what they are. Generally speaking, at the bottom of your pages, when you're editing them or creating them, you'll have a little SEO section and you'll be able to write in your SEO title. So this is this part that pops up when somebody is searching for you or for those keywords. That's the link, the little blue part that comes up. The slug is going to be your URL that's usually automatically generated by the page based on the title that you give it at the beginning. And then your meta description, right? Your meta description, it will usually, most platforms, the one that we use is called Yoast SEO. It works with WordPress, but it's a great platform to use because it gives you this little bar that tells you if you are in the right range for length, which is really helpful. But it also will give you kind of a variability if it's a good meta description as well. So what you want to generally include are your primary keywords and your location keywords as well. But because this is something that people will see, you want to make sure that it's readable, right? So you can't just say, or you generally want to avoid saying things like digital marketing bootcamp, period, digital marketing education, period, Grand Prairie, Alberta, period, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So we want to bring that into a meta description that makes sense to the reader. Now, if you don't put a meta description in, search engines will pull from the page. And I'm going to bring up a meme that I found quite funny as just a great picture of why meta descriptions are so important to write yourself, because it will just pull from the page. And all of a sudden, your cockatiel, learning about your cockatiel and what kind of diet it has, turns into cockatiels eating pregnant women, children under 5, and senior citizens. I'm sure that's not what the page actually says, but that's what the meta description is, right? So this is why it's so important to follow those best practices, because sometimes you can end up in a situation where it really doesn't make a lot of sense and you end up as an internet meme. This is one of my favorite ones. I've shared it quite often. It's I love it, but a little bit of humor for why meta descriptions are important. All right, alt text. Alt text is something that is assigned to photos. Photos have a few different areas that you can add in information about it. One of them is through the file name. So when you are saving the image, making sure to add in like, your business name and what the image is. But then the alt text, it stands for alternative text, is both for sharing with screen or site crawlers like Google, Bing, the search engines, what the image is without having to dissect the image itself. And second, it's an accessibility tool. So for people who are visually impaired who use screen readers, they will read out the alternative text of the image rather than, obviously because they're visually impaired, they can't see it. So there is twofold there why you want to include alternative text into your images. And again, it's very beneficial for your SEO because it adds another area for keywords. Now, as we're talking about keywords quite a bit, I do want to mention keyword stuffing because that is different. Keyword stuffing is where you put a long string of unnecessary, irrelevant keywords into hidden places, like an alt text, or you put it into your website and make it the same color as the background. Those things are intentionally deceptive and are actually harmful to your SEO. So you want to not do that, but adding in keywords like 910's email marketing funnel breakdown, that has keywords in it, but it's not keyword stuffing, right? It's still descriptive and relevant. The biggest thing is to keep it relevant.
Yeah, and one thing to think about photos, so we work with clients all the time building websites, and someone might come and drop by a thumb drive of a folder of a bunch of photos, and so they might give us 40 photos. And if they're just kind of being quick and lackadaisical, here's all the photos, and they haven't taken time to label them. The file name is still 8463 JPEG, the file name that the camera gave it. So if I'm going through those 40 photos and trying to determine what's what, it's not as clear as it could be because the photos don't have labels. Well, it turns out you're making Google's job a lot easier too if you label those, because Google will look at the photo and then it's like, well, by labeling the photo and by putting in this extra information that Megan's talking about, we're trying to ensure that Google thoroughly understands the content, the relevance, the type of information that's on the page. And if you have photos of the product, of the process, of the people, Google will have a sense of that if you take the time to label and describe them appropriately. So you're really doing yourself and your target audience a disservice by not naming your folders, your files. And this is probably the one thing where I find clients get really surprised by, where sometimes their website, quote unquote, isn't optimized, and we go through it and it's like, well, you must have given your web developer a whole bunch of photos without labeling them. And since they're not in your business, that may not have been necessarily clear for the web designer what these photos were about. So we spend a lot of time helping to educate our clients and make sure before you hand off the photos, let's label them descriptively.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So user experience. This is something, a big part of this relates back to the website development and handing this off to your website team, right? So when we're looking at the site security and the age of the website, that's something that you probably can't manage on your own unless you're a web developer, right? You want that to be a primary thing that your web team is paying attention to, right? So that's a big part of your user experience at the end, right? Optimize load times. So looking at optimizing your images, making sure that they are not too big. Generally, you can get away with using like a PNG file and not a print optimized file because the actual physical size of the image impacts the load time, right? How much space it takes up on the website impacts the load time. Using a video link embedded onto your website versus uploading an actual video file, again, it impacts the load time, right? So when we want to optimize the user experience and have a very smooth transition through each phase of the customer journey, a frustrating, slow loading website where I can't access any of the media on the website is detrimental at the end of the day to the end user. And one of the big parts of the experience piece is site load time, which is something that Google very frequently, search engines very frequently look at, right? And you can actually go into Google and search site speed, even just site speed calculator or something like that. and put in your website URL, and it'll give you a score of how fast your website loads, which is important as well. Smooth page transitions is another big part of the load times, right? Making sure that the transition between pages is smooth and the content loads quickly. You want to make sure that again, it will impact the end user experience. We did talk about easily scannable content already. That is what we were talking about with the headlines and breaking up the content on the page, making sure that it's easy to read. This also means including media into the content itself, right? Building in visual differences into the media, looking at incorporating photos and videos into your blog posts so that there's visual difference, right? That's the easily scannable part. Mobile optimization. This is a big thing now. Again, I said most people are searching on their phones. And when you are building your website, this should be automatic. This should be something that your web developer should automatically do. If they are not, it's time to ask some questions and ask them to do that specifically, because this is a huge thing for modernization of your website, right? The last thing, and this is something that I actually asked one of our web developers, Tyler, to give me his recommendations for user experience. What are the things that he sees regularly with our clients? And one of the things that he said was including micro interactions on your website. So when you're scrolling through a website and you have your cursor go across a image and it kind of pops out at you, or having a button change colors when you go to click it, right? Those small little things that don't necessarily seem like they should make an impact do end up making the site itself more engaging and a better experience for the user. So this included with, I mean, obviously all the other things, but the optimized load time as well is so helpful for creating this smooth overall experience and not a disjointed one. There are a lot of things in marketing that I'll say this about, but this is one of them. If you have good user experience, the end user won't notice it. It's like bad driving. If it's good, you won't notice it. If it's bad, you definitely will. So it's not something that you're going to get a little pat on the back on from your end user, but it is something that if it's bad, you definitely will hear about it. So it's really important to think about all of these things when it comes to your user experience. All right, and then just a quick reminder of those are all the things that we can do on the site itself, and then all of the things off the site, right? Your off-page SEO. We have our social media, making sure we have comprehensive outlines of our business and staying up to date on our social media pages, on our Google My Business, on our third-party directory listings. So if we have an account on Yahoo, on Yelp, on Yellow Pages, those kinds of things. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead. You're on mute there.
Thank you. I'll just give you a practical example of these sort of directory listings. So we manage some SEO, what are called retainer contracts for an ongoing basis. We're doing a bunch of activities to, again, pull them up on search. And we're doing a range of all of these things, some on-site stuff and some off-site stuff. So an example of that would be for a law firm where we would create a profile on a third-party business directory website, one that allows those businesses to post articles. And then we would post an article about business law in Canada, or immigration law, or something related to, some sort of a legal article. And then we would link that article back to the website. And so by virtue of doing that over time, this law firm, for example, has multiple places online where it has a presence. It's showing its authority, it's showing its experience, and it's linking back to the website. And so over time, you build out a wide array of these authoritative third-party or sort of external sources, all linking back to your website. So these are really off-page or off-site activities, but with really a focus of driving people to your website, back to your page. So,
yeah, absolutely. And if we're looking at kind of, unfortunately, we can't necessarily control all of these things, right? These are things that just have to be built up naturally over time. And a big part of that is your brand mentions. Unfortunately, we can't, we can do things like write guest blogs on other people's websites, and we can share their content so that they more likely will share ours. but it's not necessarily something that just naturally happens, right? So brand mentions is part of your authority, right? It's when we're looking at the EAT framework, and I'll just jump back to that last page there. There we go. So when we're looking at the EAT framework, right, this is part of your authority. How many people trust you in the industry? That comes from brand mentions as well, right? So that's how that plays into that. All right, so I want to give a little bit of time at the end here. So again, our key takeaways, keywords are part of our brand. Understanding our brand is really essential into understanding our keywords, which then we build off of with the rest of our SEO. Local SEO and Google My Business are highly effective. They are some of the easier ways to launch yourself to the top of the search engine results page. SEO will always be ongoing and require active management. This is something that will always be something that you're just going to have to manage. There will be things that you can do one time, making sure that, you know, every 5 to 7 years, your website is updated, right? So you have the best platform available. But there are things like your social media, your backlinks, your meta descriptions, all of those things that require active management. And then, of course, keeping in mind your on and off-site SEO tools and the things that you need to be keeping in mind for both of those. All righty, coming up. So we're taking a break in July, but we will be coming back in August for a webinar on TikTok. I'm really excited about this one. So is this going to be a good next platform for you, or is it a waste of time? Then in September, we are talking about data and analytics and learning a little bit more about why it's important. We won't be able to get into teaching you exactly how to manage your analytics because it is a massive topic, but we will give an overview. And then in October, we're bringing it back to brand strategy. So if you missed our first session, definitely jump into this one. It's a really important and valuable topic as well. So we've talked a little bit about education throughout all of this and our training academy and why we do what we do in the training. And what we've done here today is a lot of this formal learning where we have a talking head sharing information with you, but we also have a lot of social learning, right? Where we're interacting in a social environment, we're learning from each other, we're chatting and having a discussion, right? The next part is on you. You have to go practice this, right? Because I can tell you everything that I know. I can give you all of the tools that I have, but it ultimately comes down to you whether or not you're going to put it into practice, right? And this is where the most value from our learning comes from, is from that hands-on practice. And if we're looking at the EAT framework again, that experience, part of that is your content creators' hands-on experience with the topic. So it all comes back together. But the reason I bring this up is because this is how we approach our training academy, right? Where we have our formal learning, but we also have our training community where we have these live classes, and we really encourage and enforce this experiential learning part of it to make you practice basically and to get the most out of these experiences. So we have 21 different formal courses. These are that first 10%, right? That 10% of the learning that comes from the formal talking head. These are online, self-directed. The content and the information is taken directly from the Digital Marketing Institute. This is licensed from them. And I see that I'm missing just a couple of the courses here, but we have an AI course. There was a question about whether or not we teach AI. There is a full AI course that we can offer as well. And then we do have in our certified professional program, which is actually certified through the American Marketing Association as well. There is an entire module section on learning AI and AI's role in digital marketing. Now, these courses, when we combine them with our learning community, do qualify for the Canada Alberta Job Grants. This is part of making the education more accessible. If you qualify for the grant, yourself, that is a 66% subsidy. So it's a really big deal. And then on top of that, we are offering a 15 to 20% discount on these courses for you too. So then the learning community, which I've referenced a couple of times, this is a private community of our students where we do live classes weekly. We have these discussions through Zoom, and they're recorded and shared as well, so that you have all of those resources after the fact. We have all of these things that are super beneficial to you to activate your own learning, right? And that experiential part of it, and then that social part of it, right? Networking and collaborating with your peers. So what we are offering for you is the first 2 months in your learning community. So that thing that I was just talking about, that private student community with the live classes, 2 months free. So that's $350 towards that. And then continuing on in the learning community is $175 a month after that, which is fantastic. And then of course, getting that 15 to 20% off the course costs, plus that grant and subsidy. So really, really encourage you to take advantage of this. If you would like to, please go here, fill out that form. I will copy the link to the page. Oh, Ryan already popped that in there, so that's perfect. Definitely head over there, check that out. There's a video on there talking about this as well, but I really encourage you to take a peek at that, because there's a lot that we talk about. And actually, in July, we are having a very special guest speaking in our training academy from the Digital Service Squad in Grande Prairie. So I know that Business Link also works with the Digital Service Squad, the Edmonton portion of that. And so we are partnering with the Grande Prairie chapter to be able to share some really, really excellent information in our training academy there. So I'm really excited about that, and you should definitely take advantage of that, because you could get that for free. So thank you so much for being here. Ryan, did you have anything else to add?
No, thank you, Megan. I'll pass it to Matt in a moment here. And really, I just wanted to, again, remind everyone, when we're working with our clients, I sometimes like to call it a done with you experience, which is to say we're going to involve you. When we're building a website for you, for example, we do a lot of the heavy lifting. We'll focus on all the technical stuff, but you still have to show up ready to work. So what do you have to do? You have to understand your block of business. You have to understand your products, your services, and who your target audience is. And if you don't know that, it's a great reason why you should do a brand strategy. But then our goal is, once we have that foundation in place, your brand and your website, then with the right training, which the government will subsidize, you can be in a position where you can really do a great job of activating, managing your online digital marketing presence. So I know that Matt and the team at Business Link really believe in that as well. So Matt, we appreciate the opportunity, and back over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ryan and Megan. I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important that people, they're not going to get fully under the bonnet, but they understand what the mechanic's doing. You know, I think that's so important when it comes to this. And you know, Business Link deals with lots and lots of inquiries from business owners all the time. And the ones that we definitely find kind of most stressful are when people feel like they've had this thing built for them, or they don't have the passwords, or they don't have the access, and they're coming to Business Link with, what do we do now? And it's a really, really challenging situation to be in. So, you know, I just love that done with you approach. And just even from a cost point of view, there's very few small new businesses that can afford to completely move this off their plate to a contractor. Like it's just not necessarily realistic for most. So it's great. It's a great model. Perfect. There was just a little question there. Could you develop more on the Alberta Job Grant Subsidy? The team at Business Link are very aware of that as well, and this program, it's perfect for it, and it aligns really well. But there's actually lots of training available that meets the criteria of this, and we can definitely kind of advise there.
And Matt, just another one. We're referencing the Alberta Job Grant, but of course there's the Canada Digital Adoption Program, which in Alberta is facilitated through Business Link as well, and that'll be related to your digital marketing e-commerce strategy related to your website. So we've worked with many clients on that grant funding program as well.
And now, just further to that here, if you are interested in that, and I would definitely ask people to go and explore, it's the Stream 1 of the Canada Digital Adoption Program. I would explore that now, because we probably are reaching a point where there's a capacity and there's an upper limit. So you want to start applying for that like right away if you're interested in taking advantage of that. So there you go, a little insight for the 50 people who remained to the end. So thank you so much. Ryan, Megan, And everyone joining us today, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I believe we're taking July off. We're all going to be vacationing at beautiful spots, I'm sure, because all small business owners get the whole summer off. We know. Excellent.
so we will.
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.